Oh, wait a minute.
Not yet.
Right. Yeah, sorry, I was...
You ready?
Yeah, can we do the 10 seconds again? Because I pressed record, but I wasn't recording, so I am
Sure.
now.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we were doing it. Oh.
Okay, that'll
All right.
do.
Yeah. I'm glad you
All right.
caught that. And then I heard it live and I thought you were speaking again. I got really confused and I was like, oh, wait a minute. There's a live in the
Are you having a delay that we know about?
I don't think so.
No.
A delay. Okay. We are. Oh, what's the order? Am I third or second?
Second.
Okay. We are live.
This is Literary Roadhouse. One short story, once a week. I'm Rami.
I'm Maya.
I'm Gerald.
And I'm an ace.
So this week's story is called Memento Mori. And just to issue a disclaimer before we get into it, before we get started, that this is the story on which the movie Memento is based. So if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want spoilers, go see the movie and maybe come back and listen to this. So this story is about the main character, Earl, who we learn is in a psychiatric facility because he suffers from anterograde amnesia, which means that he's unable to create new memories, and it's usually because of after some traumatic event, but his long-term memories before that event remain still intact. So Earl's short-term memory resets every 10 minutes, and because of that, he leaves himself reminders all over his room in the form of notes and post-its. And we find out that the traumatic event that led to his condition was the rape and murder of his wife. And he presumably got hit in the head by the assailant who had then escaped. And his last memory is of the attacker's face and his wife's as she was looking to him for help. So Earl manages to escape from the psych ward and then tattoos the face of his wife's murderer onto his chest along with other details and clues. And then we find him in the backseat of a car driving off as he's staring out of the car's window at a dead man whose description matches the tattoo. But Earl has another mental reset and has reoccurring thoughts about time and his life and the future, which leaves us to believe that he doesn't remember getting his revenge and he might possibly repeat the cycle again with someone else who resembles the attacker.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was my most detailed summary ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find this story fascinating.
Yeah, it is a fascinating story. I actually didn't like the film, and I thought it was interesting that there's two brothers. One makes a film and one writes a short story. And I love the short story, and I really heard the film.
Interesting. Yeah, so you're right. It was this one was written by Christopher Nolan's brother, and he pitched it to him on a cross-country road trip.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan Nolan is his
Wow.
brother's name, and then I guess Christopher, the director, liked the story, so he took it and ran with it and made it into the movie that has become very popular and kind of a cult classic.
Oh. I've not seen the film, so just FYI.
Yeah, it's considered a classic, and I actually don't think the story spoils it too much. I think you might enjoy it. So, how did you like or dislike the story, Gerald?
I was very confused. I've read it 3 times, and each time I've read it, I've understood a little bit more about it because not having seen the film, I don't understand the premise. So, but it's fascinating, interesting. Yeah. Don't know other than that. Sorry.
How about you, Anise?
I really liked it. And also, I had seen the film, and I liked the film. I wouldn't say it was like, oh, top 10 favorites, blew my mind, but overall I liked the film, but I do like the short story even better.
Yeah, it's interesting that Gerald, you said that you felt really confused about it. That's how I felt watching the film. That's why it took me like 7 or 8 tries to get through it. And even after I fully understood it, I didn't really enjoy it. Whereas with the story, I definitely enjoyed it a lot more. I felt like it's shorter, but the way that the memory resets were handled in a way that I really understood. And I liked how my own discomfort and confusion really mirrored what he would have experienced.
I'm glad that at least one of us didn't see the movie, because I think had I not seen the movie beforehand and had that sort of background knowledge, my experience of the story would have been radically different. So I think that's probably one of the reasons why I would dock it, because for people like who haven't seen the movie, I understand how it could be a bit or more than a bit confusing.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I loved. I enjoyed reading it. It was it's one of those stories that I think I sort of devour because you just can't stop reading it. But the narrative and the actual storyline, hard to work out what was going on initially. But I got there.
Yeah. Did you feel like if you hadn't been reading it for the podcast, you would have wanted to try to understand it, or do you, that level of confusion would have turned you off?
I think it would have turned me off without any other information, without any sort of introduction or explanation or anything. I think I'd have gone, what? And a lot of it reads a bit like stream of consciousness, all this stuff about time but once you've got a handle on what's happening, then it all makes much more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with what Maya said, that I think the film was more disorienting and confusing than the short story, because the short story did that POV thing where every time it resets, it would start with Earl in third person and slip seamlessly into second for the rest of that scene, or like when he's kind of like lucid-ish, and then it goes back to Earl. So that signposting, once you learn the pattern, I thought was really helpful in a way that in the movie, you just cut to the next scene and you have no idea of, because in a movie it's not clear, like, is this a sequence of the previous like scene, or did he reset his memory? So I thought the story was clearer in that way.
Yeah. How did you guys feel about the use of the clock throughout the story? For me, that was done. And I know we've seen time used this way before in other stories. Eminence, where it was the one where it was ticking down. There was another story where a clock was used as a pacing device. For me, I felt like the clock really added clarity to what exactly was going on, and it really cemented the disorientation because the time would skip so suddenly. He's awake and it's 9 something, and then he wakes up again. It's only a few minutes later, but really it's like 8 o'clock at night, and I felt like that really added to understanding of just how disoriented his life was.
Yeah. I have one question, because I thought, and I don't know if this is true, I thought that the timeline of the story is backwards, so we're going back in time as the story progresses. Is that true?
Me, I can't say. I honestly don't know.
Oh, okay.
I was disoriented enough. I couldn't tell if I was going backwards or forward.
Idea.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, but I looked up the story on Wikipedia as well, but I think, I don't know if they actually mentioned that. They just kind of give the story synopsis to how, like, in the first segment, we know that he's in a mental institution and so on. But I think he actually did escape from it. Because if he, like, say for example, it was in reverse, then he would have found the killer and killed him, and then potentially got caught and arrested, and then went into the mental institution. But then in the middle, we see him plotting his escape. So I think he actually did escape. So it would be in chronological order.
Where did he plot his escape though? Because I was gonna say, so I don't know which is the right answer either. But with Gerald's reading, because one of my questions was, how does
I can definitely.
There was the scene where he looks in his pocket and finds the roll of $100 bills, and he wakes up at like 3 in the morning. Like, it doesn't actually explicitly say that he escaped, but like he was getting ready to get out of there. And he woke up and he saw the sign saying "Get out of here! They're trying to kill you."
In a hotel.
We didn't get any of that, Maya. You were cutting up.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. I guess I'm having issues with the delay, and I'm not hearing people.
Try turning off your video.
Talking.
Yeah.
And it's a mess. For me, he escaped because the rooms changed. But I couldn't tell. When the room where the lights were turning the walls and everything yellow, there was a hint that that might actually be a third room that he was in. So there's either 2 or 3 lower the story, and then the reset him. They don't know if he killed him or if he is going back and relive. You can't the strengths of the story because it was losing me.
Okay, I got hardly any of that. Sorry.
Yeah, I had a little trouble with it also.
Yeah. Yeah, you're cutting out for like seconds
Yeah,
at a time.
Maya's really breaking up for me. I can hear Gerald.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I think it's Maya's end. Yeah, it's so.
You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll wait and see if Maya comes back in.
Yeah, so what's interesting in the movie...
Yeah, Maya's frozen. You guys are like slow, but it moves, I guess.
Well, we're slow because we're waiting to see if Maya comes on, and then we don't hear what she's saying. So I think we're just pausing.
This is why we have a clean audio.
Yeah, exactly.
What's interesting about the movie, because you mentioned that, Gerald, is that in the movie, it's basically split up in 2 parts, where black and white scenes are in normal chronological order, but then all the scenes that are in color are in reverse.
Oh, really?
So like the end happens first. Yeah, and then it just goes back and forth between the black and white and color.
Wow. That's I think I must watch this film.
Yeah, you should. Guy Pearce is the main character in it.
Is he? Okay.
Yep. And Christopher Nolan he's half British, half American.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. No.
Yeah. Now you're moving a little more fluidly. That's a little better.
Okay.
I do a
think little dance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
This is why I don't like recording on weekends, because a lot of people are home and it like is a drag on the network.
Yeah. Yeah, good point.
If anyone is watching, Gerald, I live chat. I wrote, Rami is breaking up for me too. Gerald said, Rami is fine for me, and then Rami said, thanks. I think you're fine too, Gerald.
Bit of a bromance going on here.
Little bromance.
Little bromance. Little podcast bromance.
Yeah.
So do we know in the story whether the timeline's backwards? Because I didn't pick up that he broke out of the institution. I because once I had assumed it was going backwards, then it all sort of started to make sense because everything was like previous.
I mean, it's sort of backwards because then the scene where he gets arrested should be coming before the institution, not after the killing. So it either jumps around in time, which I like, because how did he escape the institution, really, you know? So it's either jumping around in time or he did escape the institution. But I think either way, it doesn't really change the point of the story all that much.
Plus, we don't know at the end that he definitively got caught, because he did introduce the notion that, yes, he's in the back seat of a car separated by a glass plane barrier, but it could also be a taxi. It doesn't necessarily have to be a cop car.
Yeah.
But do you believe it's a taxi? Like, really? I don't think it's a taxi. I think it's a
Potentially.
cop car. No, because if he's staring at the body he just shot, he can see the crowd. He's right there. It seems like it's broad daylight. People saw him. And what, like a taxi?
Somebody that's helping.
Yeah, I guess, or someone is helping, but who? Like, who's going to be like, yes, please get in my taxi, and I will totally be an accomplice to this random murder.
No, but
know?
maybe he killed him and potentially did it in a way that was unseen by anyone, then just hailed the taxi, and then when people started to discover this dead guy in the street, they started crowding around as he's driving off.
Yeah, I guess. I'm going to go with cop car, though. Again, it doesn't really change the point of the story.
Either way.
Yeah. That's and I was just looking back at the part of the story now, and a tattoo artist had tattooed "I raped and killed your wife" on his arm. So, is the person that has captured him the murderer?
Oh no, I don't.
Was that a tattoo? Because I thought that
We lost that.
For
okay.
no, you're like in and out, but now you're good.
Okay. The part where it said I raped and killed your wife, I didn't think that was actually a tattoo when I read that. Was that a tattoo? I thought that was his imagination.
Oh,
I thought it was a tattoo for sure.
No,
Because
I
he was
took that
getting the
literally.
shot, and he was imagining the liquid from the shot being words under his skin.
No, I think because when he had another memory lapse, so if you wake up and you're strapped to a chair and you see someone with a drill, but you don't know what it's for, but he's actually making the tattoo on your arm.
So disorienting.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to read this again because
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
understand.
I was confused a bit by why he would write I raped and killed your wife, meaning like him, but then if you read on, you notice that he also did arrows, exactly. And the arrows eventually run down to the tattoo of the face on the chest. So it's like implying this guy is the one who did it.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. That's how I read it too, Rabbi. So I do think the tattoos are, I mean, you could argue that he's in a mental institution and imagining all of this revenge, and he's stuck in the institution, or he actually got out and did all of it. I think it's a much more interesting read if you think he actually got out and did all of it. But again, either way, it doesn't change the point of the story, right?
What is the point of the story, do you guys think?
Me or someone else?
I don't know.
Anyone?
Okay, so for
Like,
me,
I don't know what the point is.
yeah. So for me, it was there was a big theme running through it about revenge and time, and the way that time deadens things, both the person and sort of the feelings that you have about things that have happened to you, or the way that people have wronged you, and the fact that he could relive the death of his wife as if it was for the first time every day kept that fresh, kept him focused on the revenge, kept him sort of in the moment. And it almost seemed to be championing revenge in a way that I wasn't convinced of. Like, people who have normal lives and get over things and forgive and forget or take the higher road are somehow cowardly. Like, that point never quite convinced me. But one thing I did notice was all the notes he's writing down every single day to remind himself of the next clue that he learned to find the killer. he's so focused on the dark. He's so focused on only revisiting the dark memories of his past. So like if you take him as a person who was in the present, he is in the present looking backwards at the darkness. So we know he did a long drive because his left arm is super tan. He's not writing down about the beautiful sunsets. Like he's in, or if he stayed at a diner and had a nice interaction with a person, he never writes that down. So in a way, he's like, as the story progresses, he gets so grim and fatalistic, because when he starts out, it's like, I'm just gonna light a cigarette and haha, he's like laughing in the beginning, and by the end of the story he's so much darker as a character than he started at the beginning. And I think it's that focus on only the ugly in your past.
Wow.
How about for you, Remy?
Yeah, so Anais, you froze in the middle of your thing, but I guess it was just for me, so that's good. But yeah, I agree that it's a commentary on time as one of the things. There was one line, sentence that I highlighted where he says, "So how can you forgive if you can't remember to forget?" And I thought that's a pretty cool way of explaining his condition. But like Anais, although I don't agree with the points that are raised with time and how it deadens you rather than, and forgiveness is just like a sign of weakness and all this stuff, I still think it's pretty elegantly described, although I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I felt like the idea that forgetting forgetting to want revenge is a weakness was actually his own thought process. I don't think that's actually the point of the story, because his revenge puts him in an even worse situation, and we see that. The point of the story is, you know, for me, when I read it, I thought what stood out for me was the idea that, you know, you see someone do something that makes no sense, they're quote unquote mad, but from within their world, everything they do makes sense. And I thought that was beautifully illustrated, because here's a man who's forgetting things on a regular basis, and he's writing these notes, and to anyone on the outside, he's going to look absolutely insane. But from within his own mindset, every single thing he's doing makes perfect sense. Even the points that don't make sense to him, he's working it out. And I thought that was really interesting, you know, to think about. You know, you watch the guy on the corner of the street talking to himself, but who knows what he's thinking from the inside. To him, that's going to make perfect sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to support what Maya was saying about how this guy is sort of justifying everything as like not getting revenge is cowardly, but at the same time, like Maya said, I don't think that's like the point that the author is championing, because the narrator gets his revenge, but it doesn't liberate him from the bad feelings. It doesn't liberate him from the anger. He's still going to wake up and still have that same anger over and over, which even somebody who doesn't have his condition, that's true of them too. Like the guy who lost his wife and doesn't have this condition and gets revenge is still going to feel the ache of her loss, right? So there is this also commentary on like, you can still get it, but that doesn't free you from anything.
Well, but I would think that the person who does remember the revenge is still in a better place than the person who doesn't think he got revenge at all, and also, so it's like double hard, because you have the revenge aspect, the unfulfilled revenge, and the pain of the loss, whereas for the other person it's just the pain of the loss, but maybe there is some satisfaction to getting your vengeance.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, because I think. Yeah, I was going to say, I think I can't, because I still obviously haven't got the story, because what I thought was happening, I don't think is happening now. So I can't really say what I thought the story was about, because I don't understand.
What did you think initially when reading it?
Well, as I say, I was initially, the first read through, I was confused until the end, when in my head I thought he's then going backwards in time. The whole timeline is reversed. So then it started to make sense. But then when you're talking about revenge and breaking out of this facility, I just think I didn't get that at all. So I'm going to have to reread it 6 times, I think. No, because it's an interesting. It's a, you know, it's like a cult. It's like what the film must be, in that you can keep watching it and keep picking out different things from it. It's a
that's very true.
It's a very well.
I know people that have watched that movie like 15, 18 times and still are trying to understand it all.
Really?
I do. I know people that watch it on a regular basis, like once a year or whatever, and they still can't figure out the entire movie.
Oh, what chance have I got then?
But honestly, I feel like the story was much better than the movie, which is saying something because the movie is considered a classic in many circles. It's like a modern classic, it's very unique. It's very different. And this story is very unique and very different. I'm thinking back to all the short stories we've read, and we've never read a short story like this that leaves you with so many questions that aren't wrapped up.
Yeah, I think, it is a fascinating story. I'm intrigued by it. Really am.
Did you guys have any ideas on symbolism that stood out for you?
I think, as Anais said, everything was time, wasn't it? The whole thing was time related. So there were lots of references and oblique references to time throughout the story.
Bell, the small bell in his pocket, also.
Yeah, and the light changing. I felt like light and daylight and the moon were very important to the story again, because it really cemented time.
Yeah, and I'd say there's like a second theme. So the main one's like time and revenge and that quality of it. And then there was a second theme about identity. There was one line that I liked very well, which is every man is a mob, a chain of gang idiots, where it's this idea that like throughout your day you have like one moment where you think where you're like, I'm going to quit smoking or whatever it is. And then you write a to-do list, or you plan out the rest of your day. And then it's just like getting all the different iterations of yourself to follow that to-do list. That felt so true to me, because I have a moment where I like wake up and I'm like, this is what I'm going to do today. And then like, good luck sticking to that for the rest of the day, as all the is like take over. But then that gets tied into the tattoo again, which is the tattoos. It's not like he wrote them so he can just look down at his chest and it's like, facing him the right way. We can just like lie down and read it. He needs a mirror to see it. And it says, everyone needs mirrors to remind themselves of who they are. And in his case, it's very literal with the tattoos, but I thought that was really good commentary on identity as well.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. That line definitely stood out for me as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that the final paragraph, when it's talking about the few minutes of every day, every man becomes a genius, and the clouds part, and all that sort of thing, and that's a sort of very clever way of saying. And there's other references earlier on about life being sort of almost like drudgery, that you follow the same paths and you do the same things, and just for those few moments a day there is clarity, and that's, I think it's when he reads his messages, he gets clarity, and he gets some indication of what his life is. Good, I don't know what I'm saying.
So do you guys think he killed the right guy?
No.
Sorry?
I said, do you guys think he killed the right guy?
No.
I'm with Anais.
Well, I don't want to spoil the movie more for you, Gerald, so I'll withhold. But
thank you.
I would say maybe there's potential that he had already killed the guy, but doesn't know it. Like maybe this isn't the first victim.
Or the last. If you don't think he's in the mental institution at the end of it.
So was the story based on the short story, or did the two brothers have a conversation, come up with this idea, and create them separately?
Based on what I read on Wikipedia, they had this cross-country trip. He kind of just pitched the story, and then the director brother, Christopher, said, all right, why don't you send me something? And then he sent him like a draft probably of this story, and then he changed it radically to make the screenplay for the film, and then Jonathan, the author of this story, completed it and then submitted it for publication in Esquire in 2001.
Oh,
Mm.
2001. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And I think it stands up. I think that this is a story that people can still read, 20 years from now, and they're still going to have a lot of the same questions. They're still going to mull it over. Personally, I think it was a genius story. As confusing as it is, it's purposeful confusion.
Yeah.
I admire that. I feel like the stream of consciousness was written so well. Like I was right in this man's head throughout the story. And it's not often I get that sensation when I'm reading a short story.
And another thing to mention is the title of this story, Memento Mori. According to the Oxford Dictionaries, in Latin it means remember that you have to die. And Memento Mori is an object that serves as a reminder of the inevitability of death, such as like a skull that someone might keep or something like that.
Good title.
And in art,
Yeah.
whenever there's an art piece and there's something that reminds you of death, that symbol is the memento mori in it. So I think in the story, the picture of the wife and the funeral, like there's pieces where in this story it's the symbol of the reminder of death over and over. So it occurs within this artwork as well. So it's meta in that way.
Very much meta.
So in the story, when it goes to second person and says you did this, you did that, who's writing that?
I think that's the other side of him, because there's part of him that remembers enough that he's writing these notes to himself, but then he forgets he's writing these notes. Yeah, I think that is his inside voice that still's retaining enough of these memories to be able to lead him throughout his daily life.
Okay.
That's the part of Anais that writes a to-do list in the morning before the idiot forgets.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I really enjoyed about the story is that it's written in third person, but it's written in first person at the same time, which is freaking fascinating. The writer in me just, man, yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
But what is unclear is this third/first person account, how is it reaching the first person? Is it because I was thinking, well, I mean, he's giving us the details as readers, but I don't think he's written all this out in his notes too. So it's kind of like, or is it just re-entering his head? Maybe, because another thing I was thinking about too, just logistically, is, all right, so he's got these 10 minutes. To be able to put all of these things together could take a considerable chunk of that time too. So maybe there are literally fleeting moments where he's taking like 8 or 9 minutes to figure this out, and then a moment of clarity, and then he just has to restart it again.
Or maybe this is that spot of his genius talking when all of a sudden everything makes sense.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to reread it with that in mind, because I assumed there was a second party to this, but now it's making a bit more sense. Probably.
You're like, who is this other person? Like, following him around, watching him get a tattoo.
Weird.
You know what, also something, I don't know how this relates to the greater themes except loosely to revenge, but that short little Judgment Day comment of like, what if Judgment Day already happened? The apocalypse already happened? All the good people are taken away? That was great.
We're all in hell.
Yeah.
But see, maybe this Judgment Day is a metaphor for his own version of having achieved his revenge or his own justice.
Blowing my mind, Ravi. I love that.
Yes. Freaking awesome. So are we ready to rate this story? It looks like we've got about 15 minutes.
Wow.
I'm ready.
Go
I'm
on.
ready.
It's tough for Gerald, I feel it.
Yeah.
Gerald's gonna.
Thank you.
Who wants to go first?
I will. I'll give it a 5 because of Gerald's struggles. Otherwise, I would have said so. But even thinking about it
Oh.
myself, had I not seen the movie, it would have been a completely different experience.
I give it a 6, and I honestly think if I hadn't seen the movie, I might have even enjoyed it even more, which is saying a lot because to me, this is a genius story. Like, I read it, and this is, to me, a pinnacle of modern writing.
Wow.
Yeah. I think my score has crept up the more we talked and the more Rami blew my mind with that final comment. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go to a 6.
Whoa. I'm going to go to. I'm going to go 5 because I love the fact that it's intriguing and interesting, but for me, you have to be able to get the idea across first, and there's and it's especially in a short story. I think you have to be able to. The reader has to understand what's going on, and and I think had I not been reading it for the Bradbury Challenge, I think I'd have read it once and thought, I don't understand this, and moved on. So so it's just a 5 for me.
Okay.
All right. Do you want to submit the stories first or play the game?
Yep, I am submitting Charles Bukowski's All of the Assholes in the World and Mine.
Ooh.
I'm submitting Handicap by Elizabeth Chandler. It's in Bodega, an online literary magazine that its tagline is your literary corner store.
Ooh.
I love that. That's cute tagline.
I want to read that. I was telling Anais earlier, I found a piece of paper, a post-it note earlier with the name of a book on. And I thought, what's that? Something somebody's recommended. So when I looked for this week's story, I thought, oh, that'll do. And it's I'd already written it down from last week, which is a bit weird. So I'm suggesting Think Engineering by Michael Schiavone.
All right. So who can guess what this week's game is about?
Memory. Time.
Hey,
Memory.
Anais wins. All right.
Oh, hey, what we're reading then?
Game over.
Well, that was quick.
All right, no, but because you answered that correctly, Anais will start with you, even though I was going to start with you anyway because you showed up first on my screen, but
Oh,
we'll give you some credit for that. And then followed by Gerald and then Maya.
okay.
So, Anais, what Canadian province's official motto translates as I remember? Is it Nova Scotia, Manitoba, British Columbia, or Quebec?
Quebec?
Correct. The motto, and I don't speak French, so excuse me, it's Je me souviens, and it
There you
means I remember. All right. Gerald, what part of the brain is crucial to the formation of memories? Is it the amygdala, hippocampus, occipital lobe, or frontal lobe?
I think it's the first one.
Amygdala.
Yeah.
No, it's the hippocampus.
Oh, I was going to say that.
All right, close.
Yeah.
All right, Maya.
Mhm.
About how many billion neurons make up the human brain? Is it 50 billion, 100 billion, 150 billion, or 200 billion?
200 billion.
Nope, half of that, 100. About 100 billion. All right, Anais. So the World Memory Sports Council is the body that organizes the World Memory Championships. And the 2010 world champion is a Chinese student named Wang Feng. He clinched the title performing what memorization feat? Was it memorizing a shuffled pack of 52 playing cards in 24 seconds? memorizing 120 historic dates in 5 minutes, memorizing 28 individual shuffled packs of playing cards within 1 hour, or memorizing 300 random words in 15 minutes.
The first one.
And the first one is correct.
Wow.
Memorize the shuffled pack of playing cards in 24 seconds.
It's insane.
That's crazy.
That is
Yeah.
insane.
All right. Gerald,
You.
in the aforementioned World Memory Championships, it's a decathlon of 10 different events. So which of the following is not one of those events? Is it 1 hour numbers, random lists of words, names and faces, or parts of the body?
Parts of the body.
Correct. I made that
Yeah.
one up. I didn't do a good enough job disguising it, I guess. But there are a lot of parts to the body. It would be
There are.
impressive if someone memorized. Anyway,
Yeah.
Maya, what is the record for how many shuffled packs of cards were memorized in 1 hour? All right. Was someone, and this was done by a guy named Ben Pridmore from England. Was it 14 packs, 21 packs, 28 packs, or 35 packs?
What was the second number?
21. 21, 14,
I'm gonna go with 21.
21. It was 28. He memorized the order of 28 shuffled packs in 1 hour.
That's weird.
Yeah. All right, back to Anais. So scientists differentiate what 3 basic types of memory based on the duration of memory retention? Is it sensory memory, short-term memory, long-term memory, temporary memory, average memory, permanent memory, momentary memory, short-term memory, permanent memory, or episodic memory, procedural memory, and semantic memory?
Go on, ask him to repeat the question.
Yeah, it's
No. See, procedural is like fluid memory. I know that one exists. I'm gonna go with the last one because I've heard of one of those. Well,
episodic, procedural, semantic.
yeah.
It's a good guess, but it's actually the simplest one. So it's sensory,
Really?
short-term, long-term.
Wow.
But where's fluid memory? That's the one I suck at in the memory tests.
Fluid? I don't know. That wasn't
like
even one of the options.
Okay, go ahead.
Anyway. All right. Gerald,
Yeah.
so procedural memory that we mentioned before, it's a category of the long-term memory. It refers to which of these human abilities? Is it the ability to consciously retrieve stored facts and information, the ability to acquire and develop skills, the artistic and creative abilities, or the ability to gain and store general knowledge and information?
The first one.
The ability to consciously retrieve stored facts and information? It's also a good guess, but no, it's the ability to acquire and develop skills. That's procedural memory.
Okay.
All right, now Maya, which of these most accurately explains the controversial issue of false memories? Okay, is it memories that are lacking coherent and logical rationale, unpleasant experiences associated with memory, or that's the second option, or the third one, memories formed under the influence of misleading suggestions and clues, or finally, memories causing false sensations?
Number 3.
And you are correct. All right, so I think Anais is the winner.
Hey.
So you won anyway. Good job. Do you want to do the tiebreaker just for the heck of it?
Yeah, go on.
All right. On average, how many thoughts do people have each day? You can just give your closest guess.
Ooh. 470,000.
Woof. All right. Anais, you still with us?
Yeah. I don't. Mine never shuts up. So one continuous thought all day. I don't know. Let's go with 100,000.
All right.
And we're including when we're sleeping, right? I'm gonna say
suppose.
$750,000. I mean, yeah, $750,000.
750,000.
Mm-hmm.
And turns out Anais is the closest one to that as well. It's 70,000.
What?
Oh, wow.
That's not very many thoughts.
Again,
Yeah.
that's average. Maybe
Kind of explains a
high-performing
lot.
individuals like yourselves
It explains
have a lot
politics.
more thoughts.
Listen,
Wow.
I'm not rating the quality of my thoughts, just the quantity.
Yeah.
So we're reading Handicap by Elizabeth Chandler. It's in Bodega. But before you go, help us remember this short story by leaving your thoughts at literaryroadhouse.com. Also, before you forget, write a note to yourself to leave a review on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spreaker. If you're looking for revenge, the person who did you wrong may be hanging out at either of our other shows, the Literary Roadhouse Book Club or the Bradbury Challenge. It's Chrissy Moss. She's the host you haven't met yet. She hangs out at Bradbury Challenge. Go get her. Also, to run a podcast network, you have to remember all these little details. We're thinking of getting our podcast to-do list tattooed on ourselves. Help support our tattoo and podcast expenses at patreon.com/literary roadhouse. Every ink helps. And as always, share this podcast with the the guy with the face. What was his name? Until next time, read a good story.
Brilliant.
Very good.
Absolutely brilliant. And on that note, me and Gerald have got to get out of here. We've got another show in 2 minutes.
Do it. Do it to it.
All right, read a good story.
See you guys then.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.
Great
Bye.
quiz, Remy. And great story. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.